Hi everybody, Levi Clay here, and I'm back again for a little bit of a lesson. Now I'm going to be a little bit hyperbolic here, but that's the nature of YouTube titles. I've been talking with some of my users and followers over on my Discord, link in the description, and we've been talking about the difference between functional harmony and modal harmony. Now this is something that I am talking about at length with Tom Quayle and David Beebe on an upcoming episode of the Guitar Hour podcast, which of course I would recommend that you check out. But for the most part, I lean towards functional harmony. That is where my ear really drags me. That's the sound that I thoroughly enjoy. But that doesn't mean that modal harmony doesn't have its place in my mind. And the more I got thinking about this, and the more I was discussing this with one of my guys over on Discord, the more I was thinking about great examples of progressions that I think of as being modal rather than functional. And it got me thinking of one of my favourite artists of all time, Michael Brecker. So for those unfamiliar, Michael Brecker, fantastic tenor saxophonist, well known for playing with the Brecker brothers, steps ahead, but being a wonderful jazz solo artist in his own right and a wonderful band leader in his own right. Got me thinking back to the first Michael Brecker solo album. And that album opens with a song called Sea Glass. Now, it's a wonderful track, a very slow, kind of brooding track with these beautiful chords at the start. And this track had always eluded me. I never really understood what was going on. I hadn't analysed it. But I thought, today I'm going to sit down and do that because I know there's something really cool going on here, but I don't quite know what it is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to play those chords for you on the keyboard so you can hear what they sound like. Sounds a little something like this. Now, yeah, let's not pretend that's anything other than really jazzy. Really jazzy, actually. But when you analyse it, it's a very interesting concept. If you listen to it, there is a D flat note that goes throughout the entire chord progression. If I just play that for you, this note rings throughout the entire chord progression. Everything else you hear is a sound played on top of that note. And what that serves to do is we hear all of these chords in relation to this bass note. Like now when I'm talking, you're hearing everything in relation to that bass note. So if we play simple chords over the top of those bass notes, you'll have simple sounds. But if you play more complicated chords, you're still going to hear them in relation to that bass note. In this particular instance, what we have is really a set of triads that don't belong in the key of the bass note. They're not all taken from the key of D flat, but of course you hear them in relation to that D flat, and you end up with these richer, more harmonically interesting chords that essentially are slash chords. They are a triad played over a bass note. Now, I've talked about inversions and slash chords in the past. I have videos on that are worth checking out. I'm going to give you a basic rundown of how to break this down on the guitar. Now, the nature of this recording is that it isn't on the guitar. This is played on a keyboard. So getting a similar sound is very, very difficult. We're never going to sound exactly like a keyboard for something like this, but if you're a guitar player, looking at a chord progression like this and getting an understanding of it in the idiom that you are familiar with, i.e. your own fretboard, may help you understand how this chord progression fits together. And progression is probably the wrong description for it, because it's less of a progression and more of a modal painting, if you like. It shifts through all of these different colours, and I think that's what I hear when I really listen to this. This is a great record that I can just sit down with some headphones on late at night, just close my eyes and really embrace and absorb the music. And that intro to that particular song is exactly that. It's a painting of colours, and you're shifting through all of these wonderful tonalities that you don't they take you by surprise. If it's the first time you've heard this track, those chords are really going to go, wow, what is that? Oh, where's it going here? It's a lovely chord progression. So I've tuned my guitar so I've got a low D flat just on my low string. Now you don't need that. I've literally just got that there, so at the end when I play these triads with that D flat under them, you'll be able to hear them in a more modal context. And the voicings I'm going to give you today are all they're kind of open voiced triads. I'm going to voice them all with a note on the D string and then notes on the B and high E string. So when I play the first chord, a D flat major chord, I'm going to play it like this. That's not exactly how it's played on the keyboard, but it works nicely on the guitar. So I'm playing 6 and 6 on the G and B strings and then 9 on the high E string. And if I play that and then put the bass note under it, as in tune as the Telecaster is going to get, this immediately gives us that modal sound. This is going to sound like a D flat major chord. Then the chord changes and it moves to this chord. So what I'm playing here is 9 on the D and then 7 on the B and 9 on the high E. So you get this chord. Now, when you really analyze this, this could be a couple of things. I guess you could think of this as being a sus2 chord, but in the long run, I think of this actually more like a G sus4 chord because of how the chord progression ends. This is like a G sus4. So we've got the fourth in the bass. I don't like bass actually. The lowest note is the fourth, and then you'd have sorry, G flat sus. I'm like, hang on a minute, that doesn't look right. Yeah, so G flat sus. So we'd have the fourth in the bass, then we'd have the root and the fifth. You put those two chords together. Now, I don't think anything there really catches you off guard. Then we shift up to this much richer sounding. This is a B major triad. I think enharmonically you'd probably call it a C flat triad, C flat over D flat. It's a nice sound. What am I playing there? 13 on the D, 12 on the B, and then 14 on the high E. Now the interesting thing about that is we play this chord and it just shifts down a semitone. So what would that be? Well, that would be a B flat major triad with the D flat in the bass, B flat over D flat. Nice chord. Same chord voicing, but shifting down a minor third. We're now playing a G major triad with that D flat in the bass, G over D flat. I'll play what we've got so far. So D flat, then we've got that sus triad, and then you guessed it, we're going to use the same voicing and shift down a semitone. So this would be our G flat triad over a D flat bass note. Now this next chord is an interesting one. I struggled to really think about what this is, to name it effectively, and I think what I decided on is calling this like an F7 chord. This is very similar to an F7. We'd have the third and the flat 7 of F along with the fifth of F. You might want to write in and give me a better suggestion of what you might call that. And of course, I'm thinking of this in terms of slash chords, so I'm putting a chord structure on top and then a bass note underneath, rather than trying to name it in relation to the D flat bass note. You try and name it in relation to the D flat bass note, and you've got this really interesting sort of, oh wow, what would we even call that? Because you've got the major 7 and the 9, but also the flat 13 or the sharp 5. Like a major 9 sharp 5. But I don't want to think of this harmony in terms of that. I think understanding it in terms of triads over bass notes gives you a real nice perspective and voicing. So it kind of helps with the voicing. So F7 with a D flat in the bass. And then to finish, we have that G flat sus chord. But then it resolves. So you have that nice suspended fourth, which then moves down. Now, of course, this isn't how it's played on the recording. I'm sort of playing the triad and then alternating between the bass notes, but it will give you an idea of what the chord progression sounds like. It sounds like this. that's our intro. The chord progression goes off. I'm not going to spend your entire day sitting and talking about the beauty of the rest of the song. I cannot stress this enough. Please do go and check out the original song, the original recording. It's called Sea Glass, and it's by Michael Brecker. It's on his debut solo album, and when you look at the cover of that, you will see the man peering deep into your soul. Absolutely beautiful chord progression, and like I say, to me, very modal in nature, because we have a bass note, we have a sound that we are then painting these different colours on top of, rather than a selection of chords that function in terms of a chord progression. It's not a 1-6-2-5. It can't be boiled down to that. And when you listen to this, trying to sort of describe function is almost impossible, because none of it has function. It simply has colour. It's a simple painting of colours. So there you go, Michael Brecker's Sea Glass, and well, at least my interpretation of the chords on Sea Glass. I think I'm pretty on point with those chords. But saying that, I'm not an expert in the field, and I'm not a keyboard player myself. I'm not a piano player myself, so I'm sort of doing my best to work out what those chords are, but relatively confident. What do you think about that, though? Do you like that chord progression? It's definitely a different one. If you're getting into modal harmony, it's definitely one that it might be a little bit beyond what your ear deems acceptable, in terms of like what Tom Quayle would call your acceptable perceived level of dissonance. You might listen to that and go, "Oh, I'm not sure about that," but if it might grab you in the same way it grabbed me the first time I heard it 15 years ago, which is mystery and wonder. I heard this chord progression, and there was something about it that was just so far removed from everything else that I'd really listened to. So go and check it out. Wonderful little keyboard part, and you'll probably enjoy the rest of the song. Very emotive saxophone playing, really cool solo, nice chord progression, great record overall, to be honest. I'll probably be talking about it this month. Pat Metheny on guitar on there, so there's a few nice little guitar moments on there that are worth checking out as well. But mainly saxophone, so go check it out. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Lastly, I just want to say a huge thank you to my supporters over on Patreon. You guys are probably going to be getting a lot of Michael Brecker this month, because I'm making this month a Michael Brecker month on my Patreon group and on my Discord server. So get ready for it. It's going to be a wild one. And extra special thanks to Chris Motes, who is currently a top tier patron. Thanks so much for your support, man. In these trying COVID-19 times, having a little bit of income from Patreon has made me not worry about the fact that most of my other income disappeared. So thanks so much. And if you would like to grab one of my books, you can head on over to Amazon, search for Levi Clay, and I'm sure you will find one. Right, thank you so much for your time, guys. You can check me out on Patreon by clicking this button up here. You can subscribe by clicking this button down here. You will see 2 more of my videos here and here. And if you have any questions about this chord progression, or you want to give me your input on what you think about the chord progression, do you like it, do you not like it, just let me know in that comment section below. Much love, and I will see you for another video soon. Goodbye.